Hi there, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to sponge a scene using a pre-colored image by There She Goes Clear Stamps. I chose to use the Little Hermit Crab from the new Beach Bum set, and we're going to be masking off the scene in order to create an oceanside landscape. I've taped my image to a scrap piece of paper and making sure that my seams are pressed well down so the ink doesn't bleed beneath them. Right now you can see me taping off the horizon line. We'll be coming back and sponging in some clouds a little bit later on in the video. But for now, you can see that I'm using a scrap piece of vellum that I've stamped with VersaFine Onyx Black and used my two-way glue pen as an adhesive to adhere it to my paper. I've waited until the two-way glue pen is dry, and then I've tapped it against my clothing to make it a little bit less sticky so it doesn't tear at my image when I take my mask off later. Just again, pressing down the seams, you really want to make sure they're down nice and tight so your ink doesn't bleed as you press against it with the sponge later. I've taken a scrap piece of paper and you're just going to line it up to where you want the seam of your water to be. The first ink that we're starting off with is called Baja Breeze, and it's a Stampin' Up! Ink. We're using 6 different inks for this tutorial. We're using 4 for the ocean and sky, Baja Breeze, Bermuda Bay, Pacific Point, and Not Quite Navy for the ocean. Then we're using Creamy Caramel and Ranger Distress Antique Linen for the sand, and then we're coming back in with Baja Breeze for the sky a little bit later. I'm just really saturating this paper with my ink because I like really bright papers, and in between sponging the gradients I'm not going to wait for my ink to dry. So you want to make sure that there's a lot of ink on the paper. The paper that I'm using is Canon 90 pound cold press paper because I watercolor my images a lot. So this tends to hold the ink and keep the colors true as well. This next ink that I'm using here is Bermuda Bay, and I'm just going along the bottom of the horizon line and off to the right of the paper. And we're trying to create a gradient from right to left so it fades out onto the sand. I'm coming in with my Pacific Point at this point, and I'm pressing harder against the seams of the paper and a little bit lighter towards the water. And I'm coming back with my Bermuda Bay just to blend the colors a little bit more. As I said, that the inks haven't really dried, so it gives you a little bit of time to blend the colors a little bit, and you can just take any sponge to do that, even a plain sponge with no ink on it. Now I'm coming in with my Not Quite Navy, and we're just creating the deepest part of the ocean, which is the furthest away from the shore. You just need a little hint of this. I'm just removing my mask, and as you can see, I've just used some torn paper and I've ripped it down the center. And you want to keep both sides so you can mask off the water so that your ink colors don't bleed between the blue and the brown. Right now I'm bringing in some Ranger Distress Antique Linen to start off my sand with, and I'm trying to go very carefully around the little masked crab, just because I don't want to upset the mask at all or try and bleed any colors underneath it. Because antique linen is such a light color, you really want to put lots of it on the paper. My ink pad isn't very inky right now. I do have to re-ink it, so I'm using quite a bit of ink here. I'm sponging a little bit of the antique linen right into the water part to look like a sandy beach. And I'm just masking off the water so I can, again, add quite a bit more ink along the water line, just so when you take the masking tape away, everything is so incredibly bright and it draws your eye in. Really want to get the ink up against the seams of your masked off area as well, along the lines where you're going to leave a little bit of white area when you peel back the tape. Just want those lines nice and crisp. Now I'm coming in with a bit of creamy caramel, and I'm just kind of making the edge of the bottom sandy area a little bit darker, just to create a little bit more interest. And again, going right up against my edges to make sure that they're nice and crisp. You can take your scrap piece of paper and add different elements to your landscape with different colored inks. I'm going to saturate the bottom left-hand area of my paper to create a miniature sandbar. And I'm using creamy caramel again. Now I'm just peeling off the line that created for our horizon. You can use just a scrap piece of paper cut into a cloud shape to make a little cloud mask, but I actually have a plastic cloud template that I bought years ago. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that. I usually start off at the bottom of the horizon and work my way up to the top of the sky to make it lighter. This adds for a natural appearance, and I'm using my Baja Breeze ink. You'll see now that I'm overlapping the clouds a little bit. You just want to get in there and work the inks until they're lightest and darkest where you want them. And you only have a little bit of space to work with, so there's not much sponging that needs to be done. Now we're completely finished with our video. You can come back in and add some more highlights, lowlights to wherever you want. I've just come in and added a little bit more sand to my water area. And you can go ahead and peel off the tape and be left with your crisp lines. And at this point, if you're a watercolor or Copic user, you can come in and add your shadows, as I will be doing for the final product. I'll be coming in and adding some shadows around the crab. Thank you for joining me today.